we glossed over it, but you're the Indian body coach.
Yeah, man. What we do is we run the Complete Health Rewire. So it's a multidisciplinary approach to basically rewiring the way you think about your health, getting you into the best shape of your life, mentally and physically, and then ultimately just setting you up for the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life. When I was 21, diagnosed with depression. 22, tried to take my own life. 23, first time I actually got proper help. I'm 36 now, so we're talking a good 15 years ago. No one's talking about it back then. There's no people on social media mentioning anxiety and depression like it's a normal thing. There's nobody that looks like a role model to me talking about it. And then also, I've got the blinkers on, just bury my head in the sand and carry on. I felt like I was the victim to everything. So one of the reasons I felt like I was the victim to everything is simply because I wasn't taking enough responsibility. I was looking for somebody to blame for how I was feeling, rather than connecting to myself, understanding what's going on, taking that moment to understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and then giving myself that space to actually feel it. If you're just talking about something over and over again, but you're not doing anything about it, then that's when there's a problem. That's when there's a challenge. Now take responsibility and do something about it. Change your life. Nobody's going to do it for you, man. And I think for me, it's when I found my purpose in life that I started to realize nobody's going to bring this purpose to fruition apart from me.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Unfiltered Podcast, where we take the I out of unfiltered and put the emphasis directly on you. This is the one platform where we get to take down our filters and have raw, authentic and vulnerable conversations in regards to the challenges that we're all facing today. Now, if you're a fan of the unfiltered nature of this podcast and you want more of these conversations that I have on the show to be normalized, why don't you help me help you to get more guests on and to have those difficult conversations in regards to the challenges we're all facing? I have to know what it is that you specifically want us to speak about. So if it isn't too much to ask, why don't you hit that subscribe button right now? And at the end of the episode, if it's been a hit for you, why don't you leave a thumbs up and leave a cheeky review in regards to what specifically resonates with you. Now, with that all being said and done, let's get straight back into the episode. Juggy, thanks for coming through, man. I know you've had a hectic start to the morning, but I appreciate you still getting down here. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah?
Life throws you curveballs, right?
It does.
Adapt and deal with it.
Definitely so, man. Thank you for coming all the way down here. We're gonna get into a few little bits and bobs that we spoke about previously on the phone. But why don't you give everyone a little introduction in regards to like who you are, what is it you're doing, and like more specifically like who you're working with as well.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. It'd be helpful if you break that down a bit. No, I think I'll start off with what I do, and then I think hopefully the who I am will come out in today's chat anyway. But what we do is we run the Complete Health Rewire. So I'm the founder of this program. It's a multidisciplinary approach to basically rewiring the way you think about your health, getting you into the best shape of your life, mentally and physically, and then ultimately just setting you up for the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life. For me, it's not just about getting a physique transformation. That's going to be the byproduct of all the things you do, but it's how you live your life when you're 60, 70. It's how you become like that inspirational role model today. Yeah. And, you know, I wrote a social media post yesterday, and it's all about generational health, like breaking that cycle of negative health habits and then just creating this unbelievable set of habits of an understanding and awareness of yourself to develop that generational health that you can pass on to the next generation. Yeah.
How's that been working out for you so far?
So I've been coaching for 17 years now.
Yeah.
And I started off with the traditional approach. Well, I guess I didn't actually. I went to university, I studied nutrition, and that was my main thing. I really wanted to get my head around nutrition, physiology. Why does the body behave the way it behaves when it comes to health? And then I decided to bring that to normal people, like just bring it to regular people, because everything that I trained on was around athletes.
Yeah.
So you learn how to deal with somebody who wants to go and do a triathlon, for example. You learn how to deal with like professional mixed martial arts kind of fighters. And then it's real people that needed the help, not these people at the top aspects of their kind of sport. So for me, I brought that to real people, but I don't think anybody understood the concept back then.
Yeah.
Like we're talking 17 years ago. I think most people just wanted to know how to like lift weights.
Yeah.
So I did that. I went and taught them how to lift weights.
Fine.
And then I gave them the nutrition stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's just grown and grown and grown over years. Like, I think my first team member I hired about 11 years ago now. The first team member that I hired was a psychologist.
Yeah.
I think people were a bit shocked by that, but the first person I ever hired was somebody that could help me help our clients
100%.
understand themselves.
Yeah.
And rather than just throwing plans at them, we're changing the way they think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the concepts
Nah, for sure.
develop from.
Because it's like, I talk about it with every coach that I work with or I speak to. Like, every coach needs a coach. Every doctor needs a doctor. Like, you need that to become a better version of yourself, right? So I respect that, bringing that psychologist in. So we glossed over it, but you're the Indian body coach.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Talk to me about how that name came into it as well, because...
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story. So now I think people think I'm somehow associated to the body coach.
Yeah.
But when I first came up with that name, it was with a mentor that I'd been working with for about a year at the time.
Fine.
And I'd never heard of the body coach. And again, we're talking like over 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I don't think he was a presence back then. And obviously he's absolutely smashed it with what he does, but it's almost the antithesis of what we do.
Yeah.
Because he is very much about follow this, train like this, whereas we're more about the mind as well.
Yeah.
Where we're actually taking into account somebody's physiology, like what are your blood tests telling us, what's that information giving us, so that we can actually develop something that is suitable for you as an individual rather than create one thing and give it to thousands of people.
I hear that. And is it just men you're working with, or men and women, or
Both,
yeah,
man.
And I know we've said like you are the Indian body coach, but is it just Indians, or
Man.
just Indians you're working with?
Yeah.
Nice.
So our entire client base is South Asian,
Okay, sweet.
and it's just naturally been that way.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm talking about the things that we struggle with.
Yeah.
Not just the food, but it's like, think about the generational traumas that we've grown up with
100%.
that are being passed on to us. Think about, the minority mindset that we have in working environments, in the way that we focus so much on building businesses, building growth, building financial security. But why do we have to do all these things?
Yeah.
Because there's a fear inherently of losing it all,
Yeah.
or not having what or kind of going backwards to what we had when we first came over here.
Exactly. That's actually interesting you say it like that, because when I talk about it from a perspective where I've got, let's say, a client and I'm speaking to, and it's like, what's driving this fear right now? And it's what everyone else in the community is going to say. And what you've just said right now, it takes it even one step further. It's that fear is driven on the back end of, this is what we've come from. This is all we've been taught. Unfortunately, this is what I'm going to pass on to you right now. And I feel like what you might be doing is channeling someone to think just a bit differently out of that yes, that fear is going to be there respectfully, but this is your life as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it safe. They didn't play it safe when they decided to come here.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
They took that risk. Take that next risk for you. Like, what does that look like? But interesting. I like the way you said that as well. One of the things I wrote down here right now is you've helped so many people transform their lives through fitness and nutrition. What's the most common misconception about achieving these sustainable results?
I think it's probably just that it's about the food and the training.
Isn't it?
Nah. Like, think about it. Inherently, if somebody's sitting there having biscuits and tea,
Yeah.
like smashing their favorite Indian sweets, right? And they're eating, or they haven't trained for like a month,
Yeah.
they know that something's off.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need to be told, by the way, you should be eating better and you should be moving more. Tell me one person that you know that doesn't know that information. Tell me one person you know that doesn't know that they should have a calorie deficit if they want to lose weight.
Yeah.
So I think the common misconception is that that's all it's about.
Yeah.
It's not actually understanding, well, why did you get to where you are in the first place?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because you didn't know, it's because it's very difficult to apply based on the way you live your life, based on your environment, the way you think. There's so many different components that come into it. So to just say it's about moving more and eating less is quite redundant.
Yeah. Because I've always been told, and it's probably a misconception in itself, 80% is food, 20% is actually like how you train.
100% how do you apply that information.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Because like what my online coaches in the past have told me is, look, we're not going to call it a cheat meal. We're not going to call it like you can't have you can't have X, Y, and Z. Of course you can. But you have to understand, like, if one of your goals right now is to get into the best shape within the next 6 months, this is part of that plan, unfortunately. And you can deter away from it, but let's look at it from a different perspective where if you want to have a Nando's, a KFC, whatever it is, go have that.
Yeah.
Just know on the week now, when we look at it, what you've like consumed and how much you've worked out, if the scale weight doesn't match up, we kind of have a rough understanding why.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might need some of that, you know, it's just to let go of some of the stress or whatever's going on in your work week. So I get it. And it's trying to find that healthy balance.
Yeah, man.
And I always used to like try and dial it back into like wanting to be in the best shape for me. And I said, I want to be like that athlete.
Yeah.
And I remember my coach, came at Fitness. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but he basically said, Pri, you're not an athlete. You don't get food cooked for you. These guys get their meals prepared. They're under strict training regimes. They're like every day they're doing something towards looking the way they are to perform the job that they're doing. You're an accountant. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your job isn't to be looking good 24/7. You've got other things you need to do, right? So naturally, it's going to be difficult and different for you. So take that on board and run with that the best way you can. So if you want to train like an athlete, okay, cool. We can implement certain bits and bobs, but to call yourself one is going to be a difficult thing to do unless you completely just sack off everything right now and just focus in on it. So getting into that lifestyle balance. But you're right. We all have social things we like doing, whether it's going to the pub, going out on dates, etc. Like these things catch up and you shouldn't be too harsh on yourself when you do eat outside of a plan or whatever. But no, it's good. It's 100.
Sorry, man. Just on that, bro. Like, I think this whole plan thing as well. Like, I shared a post this morning about a mom. She's type 1 diabetic. She's lost 18 kilos, and like you'd think to hear that in the 40s, all that sort of stuff. That's quite a massive achievement. Must have had a plan.
Yeah.
It's not no plan, no diet plan. Just pure education, and the post that I shared was actually around the fact that she didn't have a plan is the reason she is where she is, because there's literally no restriction in place. And she reached out to me the other day where she was really, really struggling because one of her colleagues at work, who she's very, very close to, was leaving.
Yeah.
And then that created an emotion within her. And then that emotion drove a response that she needed to soothe. And in that moment in the office, she wasn't going to break down and cry. So she wanted to reach out for some food, some croissants or whatever it was. And instead she messaged me and we had a conversation about meeting her emotion rather than meeting her desire. And then like just considering it from that perspective, now we're not talking about calories and macros and did you hit your weekly plan and all that sort of stuff. The plan's out the window at this point. The emotion's here.
Yeah.
So let's meet the emotion. Let's talk it through and find a solution. But again, I think when people think about online coaching, it takes them to what diet should I have and do I have a plan and how many calories a week should I have? Like how should I train? And I think training's easy to systemize, right? Because you've got a set of a certain amount of time. This is your window. These are the exercises. These are the reps, the sets. Time, detention, the rest time. But the nutrition, that's not so easy.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that education and actually helping people understand the emotional intelligence to be able to manage it more effectively, that's what gets them the sustainable long-term success.
100%. I hear that because I don't claim myself to be a PT. I don't know much about nutrition. I've only been taught what's been educated to me through coaches I've worked with. And like I just finished up today with one of my clients. 9 months we've been working together, and like one of her biggest insecurities was around like how heavy she was. She wanted to lose some weight, and again, I know the basics of what you possibly could do. Let's get your steps in, your training. Okay, fine. Let's monitor that. And when I say let's monitor it, let's look at what you're doing. Let's look at whether or not you're actually being as intense as you possibly could be in these sessions. How much are you eating? Are you actually eating enough, you know, to sustain all this working out that you're doing, right? And over 9 months, she's quoted to me today, and I've put it on social media. She lost 15 kilos by just being accountable. Yeah. She's super confident right now. She's single and she feels great going on dates. And it's like that mindset shift is amazing. And that's what I like trying to work towards, because even if you don't lose the weight, how are you feeling? And like, it's something that I've done for myself this year personally. Like, I'm going to eat what I want because I know I train hard. I can train harder, and there's obviously things I could do in regards to increase that intensity. Maybe I'm training too much. Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis and time into certain sports and activities which aren't benefiting the goals I'm trying to work towards.
Yeah.
But it's honing that back in, and like you said, from an emotional standpoint, and understanding it from, I would say, that personal perspective, how much more of a difference that can make for you.
Yeah.
I feel like you're tapping into that quite well then, from how you're saying it, because again, I just told you, I just jumped on a plan.
Yeah. But again, I think this is where you got to look at the whole person,
Yeah.
the whole life, and then I'll be honest, when a lot of people come to us and try and explore their goals with us, I think it's recognizing the deeper desire that goes beyond the number on the scale.
Yeah.
And I think this is where you start to really bring out the best of people. So my goal for somebody walking into the room and being with us and working with us is, yes, I'm going to get you to that initial weight loss goal that you told me, but I'm also going to get you to the best version of yourself. And I'm not just talking about the way you look in the mirror, but it's how you show up at work, how you are with your energy, your productivity, your relationships, your connectivity with other people, but more importantly, yourself.
It's like, what's the point losing the weight if you still feel the exact same way?
Exactly, man.
And it's shifting that mindset. It's crazy because, like, I don't really want to keep talking about myself, but like, I went on a plan. Well, I wouldn't call it a plan. I was with a fitness coach and pretty much kind of like delivered it similarly. Like checked in regards to like stress, sleep, how's work, how's personal life. So those weekly check-ins were great. And it's something like I've adopted moving forward. But like I dropped from 82 or 84 kilos to like 66, and I was like, I felt like it looked good because abs were there, but I felt too skinny. And so moving forward, I wanted to like put on a bit more weight, and I know how to train now, so I don't need to work with you. I've kind of got that mindset in. And now when I look at myself, I'm like, I feel from above that I look good. I feel when I train hard. This Whoop band tells me that your strain is up there. You're doing what you need to be doing, but the scale weight ain't moving.
Yeah.
And I'm eating less. I'm eating more. I'm getting steps in. I'm drinking all this water. I'm taking certain supplements, etc., and it ain't shifting. And I've had to dial it back in to say, are you happy with the way you turned up yesterday? Because you don't drink aggressively, maybe every now and then. You golf maybe 2-3 times a week if you've got the luxury of good weather and you've got the time on your hands. You're trying to be as active as you can. And when you're in the gym, you're actually pushing yourself. You're not just sitting there just doing the same weight over and over again. You are trying to be better. And when you're tired, you recognize that and you don't go overboard. You listen to what your body says. Does that number really matter? Now, it's a personal goal of mine to possibly not lose it, but to be more slimmer for my own personal benefit. But I can respect the fact that that might not change. But up here, if I feel better and if I feel it looks better and I'm turning up better and I've got the energy, then isn't that a bigger win?
Yeah, man. It absolutely is. And I think this is where changing... Look, at the end of the day, if you're dropping body fat at the rate that you feel like you should, you will see a change in the scales, right? But equally, I think this is where it's got to be a phase-by-phase approach. So this is now getting into more coaching speak.
Yeah.
But when we break a journey down, there might be a client that comes to us that has been up and down with their diet for quite a period of time.
Fine.
Where they've trained well, but they've under-eaten. There's one guy that really stands out to me right now who his weight has been about, I think it was about 78 when he first came to us, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he was pre-diabetic. He had a lot of issues going on physiologically. So his cholesterol was up. He was having issues in terms of very, very high blood pressure, high heart rate. So for me, that individual, he's not ready to lose body fat. So when I look at all that data and I'm pulling all that information together, looking through his blood work, we're looking through his history around training, the guy is under-muscled. So it's not that he's overly fat, but the main concern is he's under-muscled. So my first block of work with him is get his health back, get him sleeping better, managing his stress better, get him off the medication that he's on. Now I can start to focus on the scale weight.
Fine.
He's built that lean muscle tissue as well in that first block of work. So now it is body fat that we're now ready to attack. So again, it's like if somebody comes to me, I kind of need them to recognize that I'm not just looking at one metric. The whole picture gives me the best idea as to what that first starting position should be. And I think that's the beauty of having somebody or a team of people that know what they're doing rather than just saying, oh, you want to lose weight? Here's a calorie deficit.
Yeah. I think that's the standard quick thing to do, right? Calorie deficit. Here's a plan. let's just gradually bring it lower
Right,
and lower.
that might work. So if you've got 10 people that come in, that might work for one or two of them.
Yeah.
And then those are the people that are lauded on social media, right?
Yeah.
So they get posted about, they get this and that, and on Instagram, they're everywhere. But then the 8 people that don't get results, they just get forgotten about. But those 8 people, do you know what happens to them? They think there's a problem with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they internalize the failure and think, I'll either never try again, or everybody's approach is like that.
Yeah. I have a guy at my gym, and I always have a go at him. I'm like, mate, you flipping tell me about your diet. You eat cookies, biscuits. How are you looking the way you're looking right now? And he just blames his genetics. And I was like, sharp, man. There's something there that I'm missing out on. But I suppose the intensity and generally just coming in with a smile on his face and working on his mental health the way he does probably adds a lot of benefit to it. But as I just said there, like mental health, one of the things we said that we wanted to like try and get into at some point was discussing it from a men's mental health perspective. What did you want to touch base on first with in regards to it?
Man, I work with a lot of guys, and there's a lot of challenges. There's so many challenges out there at the moment. I think one of the biggest challenges for men's mental health right now is being misunderstood. And I think for generations, we've been told to be quiet and just get on with it. And then there might have even been a point where the social circles was a positive thing. So even though they weren't talking about their challenges, they still had other people around them. There was a lot of people getting together, meetups, all that sort of stuff. But I think even that has started to die down, because now men, I think more progressive men, are trying to be the best dads they can be, and also the best husbands they can be. And even that side of it in terms of the social becomes quite a luxury. So they're seeing less and less of the people that get them, that they've had that camaraderie with for years and years and years. And I think men are becoming more and more isolated. And I think the challenge then becomes, because you're so progressive in the way you think, and you're trying to learn all these new skills and new tools on the job, you're getting overwhelmed, overworked, and then you also have got the old software in your mind which is telling you to beat yourself up, that you should be better, that you should know all the answers. So there's so many different challenges out there with men's mental health, but I think one of the biggest things is being misunderstood and learning how to navigate this new world, learning how to actually recognize that you can't lose the connection with yourself, and then being able to translate that into day-to-day life.
So is there anything in particular that you've possibly struggled with?
Yeah,
bro, over the years?
I talk about this very openly. When I was just released an article on this the other day, but 21, diagnosed with depression. 22, tried to take my own life. 23, first time I actually got proper help. Yeah, so 21, get diagnosed with depression. Don't know what that is. I'm 21 years old. I'm at university. I'm living my life, right? So what the hell is depression as a 21-year-old? And I'm talking, again, I'm 36 now, so we're talking a good 15 years ago. No one's talking about it back then. There's no people on social media mentioning anxiety and depression like it's a normal thing. It's still very hush-hush in our community. There's nobody that looks like a role model to me talking about it. So there's nobody that I can connect to. And then also, I've got the blinkers on, just bury my head in the sand and carry on, to the point that it completely took over. I wasn't helping myself either, because I would say alcohol dependency at that time as well, where drinking had become so normal to me, and not just drinking a little bit, but drinking a lot and drinking every day, because I wanted to fit in, but also it made me feel better to distract myself from what was really going on. So that's going to just add fuel to that fire. And then, yeah, it just turns into an absolute avalanche.
Do you feel, I know you said at the age of 21, this is what you were diagnosed with depression, right? So it's probably built up for years prior to that.
Yeah.
Do you feel at that time, if you did have, I'm not saying a social media role model, but a book there to have read, or some sort of person at uni or within your family that could uphold that space, do you reckon that would have made a difference, or do you reckon you would have been conditioned to say no?
No, I 100%, bro. Because like, if I think about what my vision for my life was back then, even then, I had a timeline in my head about everything that I wanted to achieve. So at 21, I was going to graduate, and then I was going to get my first graduate job, and then I was going to be really successful in that, and then I was going to go buy my house, then I was going to get married at 24, I'd have my first child at 26. So it was already in my head, like what success looks like to me. And if I'd looked at, again, social media, and I saw me or someone that looked like me now, who on the face of it is doing well, does have the family, does have beautiful wife who's sitting with us today, children, a business, something that they're really, really passionate about, living with purpose. If I saw that back then, I'd be like, that's probably someone I want to reach out to and have a conversation with. So I do think social media matters, and I do think people sharing their stories matters. And it doesn't need to be somebody with a huge platform, but if we just start to talk about it and normalize it and have conversations. But people are still celebrating their cars that they buy, right? So you will see on somebody's social media when they've bought a new car, or when they've just moved house, or when they're on holiday. Yeah, but how often do you see that, do you know what, I've had a really difficult day today, like a really challenging day, and it took a lot for me to post what I'm about to post, but this is how I managed it. You don't see that, man. You don't hear much of that.
It's true. Because the only thing I'm thinking of right now, because I empathize with you highly, because I try and do that the best way I can. I've probably slacked on it this year, and I might talk about it more on the podcast, and I now get therapy, so it's great. I have that conversation privately, and a few people have said maybe there are certain things you might not want to share to the world just yet until you're comfortable to really explain it in a more positive manner. But I do agree, because I thought to myself, yo, I do have shit days. Why didn't I talk about it, kind of thing? And let's normalize the fact that it might look like I'm good, but really and truly, yo, you have your off moments. Man. But what I'm trying to think of is the mindset I would have had, similar age, 18 to 21, uni. It would have been nice to have an outlet. And I remember I used to tell like friends and like my ex at the time and stuff, like, no one wants to understand it from my perspective. I don't know if I still felt comfortable enough to have gone out to someone to be like, this is what I'm struggling with. Can you help me, guide me, or just allow me to talk about what it is that's going on? And I know you're saying right now, if you had that then, it probably would have been helpful. I still feel like nowadays, regardless, like mental health and talking about mental health has probably skyrocketed from what it once was.
Yeah.
And you got yourself, someone like me, and there are other people out there, coaches, therapists, and it's not uncommon to like get that assistance. But again, taking that first step is probably something they generally feel they're not allowed to do. Would you agree, or would you still feel like it's there? I don't know if many like teenagers right now, or even people within their 20s, are comfortable enough to say, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Help me, because I don't know what to do.
Look, I don't think I know people aren't ready, because people come and talk to me about it, but they don't talk to anybody in their close circle about the fact that they're struggling. They don't talk to their wives about the fact they're struggling. Their kids don't know the fact that they've got vulnerabilities. And it's that whole kind of Superman complex where we've got to be, the strongest person, And I think this is one of those things that it's only going to get better the more we talk about it, and the more we share about it, and the more we normalize it. Now, I'm happy to go home and speak to Justy in front of the kids and say, you know what, I've had a really difficult week, and I've the emotions that have come up this week have been really challenging. And do you know what, I've not felt like this for a while, and I like to share these stories in front of the kids, because they need to know. I
was just going to ask that as well.
Like, their daddy is not Superman. He's got his own vulnerabilities, and sometimes so like obviously I work out and I've got a decent physique and all that sort of stuff, and I think the only thing that Caleb talks about is my muscles. so he's my youngest, and he's just at that age now where I think that's what he wants. He wants to be strong and all that sort of stuff. He was even talking about the elves on the shelf at the moment, hanging off my muscles. I was like, I don't even know how we got onto this, but anyway, but I need them to hear me talk about it, because I know that even my youngest is very perfectionistic. Yeah. And I'm very perfectionistic. And I can see it in the work that he does, and how he does his homework and his little writing, and he did the Christmas cards the other day, and he got frustrated that it didn't go perfectly. But if I don't talk about the fact that I get frustrated, he's going to think that's abnormal, and then he's going to start to close off from us all about 100%. How he's feeling. Yeah. So look, in terms of like the next generation, I think things have improved dramatically, but I still think there's a lot of work to do.
it's like, you probably heard it when you were growing up as well, but like many men felt the pressure to like man up. That's the common phrase.
Yeah.
You got to fix up. Stop acting like a girl.
Yeah.
And like now that shit can't land.
Yeah.
But back then, once it's imprinted, it sticks with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question I wrote down here was, how do you approach creating a safe space for your male clients to open up? But before I go into that, talking about family, I think what you're able to do at home is fucking amazing, because nowadays for single men, trying to be open about certain things that are going on, whether they're dating or they're struggling to date, or when they've just matched someone and it's all a bit of a struggle, having that confidence to talk about it, it's still something that creeps up and just shuts them off.
Yeah.
They go into that Superman mode, that macho mode, and it's like, I won't tell you anything because you're going to think of me as weak. How have you managed to find that within you to be able to open up at home to your missus?
At home, do you know what? I think it's just normal and easy for me now, but I've been practicing it for a long time. So I'm 36 now, and I've been practicing working on my mental health. And then this is why I'm so grateful for what I went through when I was younger. Because if I didn't go through depression and anxiety, I probably would be one of the guys that tell everyone to man up now. Yeah. So I'm so grateful for what I went through back then. But because I've been working on my mental health year in, year out for like 15, 16 years, I'm in a much better place, and an ability to convey that to different audiences, whether it be the people that we support at home with Jussie. It doesn't matter to me. Do you know what I really struggle with? The thing that I struggle with the most is actually small talk. I can't do it, man. I need to have deep, meaningful conversations with people for it to feel like it's a worthwhile use of energy.
Yeah.
So I actually struggle with the other side of it, where people are just kind of walking around day to day, see it at the school pickups. Everyone's very like cordial and very nice, and they say the same things, and it's the same conversation every day.
Yeah.
And I find that incredibly boring.
Fine.
Yeah, but I think this is where, if you just normalize the fact you're going to have a deep conversation with me, then, yeah.
But like, take me back to like that first memory you had where you let your wife know, I'm feeling it, and it's fucked, because that moment right now is what probably a lot of men right now are still going through.
To be honest, man, I think I won't speak for Jussie on this podcast, and you might want to get her wrong, because her story is absolutely incredible.
We did say
just dropping her in there, but I think because both of us have gone through many challenging life experiences, and we're very connected. Like the first time I ever met Jussie, we had a really deep, meaningful conversation, and she told me things about her life that she'd just told me that she'd never speak to anybody else about before. So we just connected at that level straight away. And I think that's when you've got your soulmate with you, where you just know that you can talk about anything, and it will be fine.
But even then, like nowadays, like I'm very open and vulnerable, and I'm single, so I might be very open and honest.
Yeah.
But it still might not land, or I say not land, still may not materialize.
I think this is how you frame it, man. Like, people are scared to say what they want to say and how they're feeling because they feel ashamed that they feel that way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because they feel that they're going to get judgment. They can't validate their own feelings about what they're going through. They're judging themselves. They're speaking from the inner critic. They've never learned what true compassion is. All they've ever learned about compassion is you sit there and you eat chocolate and you watch Netflix. That's all that they've learned about compassion. And I think this is the beauty of it, is when you can really understand yourself and connect with yourself. I don't need to vocalize anything. I don't need to vocalize anything to Jussie or the kids, but I want to do it because I want to normalize the conversation in that environment. I think if I can actually say to myself, yeah, it's okay, by the way, Juggy, that you don't have the answers right now, but by the way, every time you fight like this before, what's happened? You've gone and found the answers. So now I can internalize that conversation, and that's my superpower. And when you realize that all of the anxieties and the feelings that you have and the depression that you're going through is actually your superpower, then you change the dynamic of the conversation.
Yeah.
And you're speaking at it from strength rather than from vulnerability and fear.
That's very, very powerful, because even prior to like seeing you today, and this is why therapy has been helpful. I've had moments this year where it's been like this, and it's in those moments you've got to like allow yourself to feel a certain way, and then communicate it with those you feel comfortable with speaking to, so that you, again, normalizing it, to then navigate your way out of it again and use it, like you said, as your superpower to pick yourself back up. But it's a tough one for men these days, and I feel like what gets projected are men are becoming too emotional now. And I can't seem to understand why that's a phrase that's allowed to be said. It's like, well, you're telling me basically then I should go back to a way where I should stay quiet and not talk about stuff and then be miserable, acting a grump, and possibly bug out on the back end of I'm having to bottle this shit up.
Look, I will speak to this, man, because I can hand on heart say that so when I was going through depression and anxiety when I was younger, I felt like I was the victim to everything. So one of the reasons I felt like I was the victim to everything is simply because I wasn't taking enough responsibility. And I was looking for somebody to blame for how I was feeling, rather than, again, like I said, connecting to myself, understanding what's going on, taking that moment to understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and then giving myself that space to actually like feel it, right? So I feel like this because that person's done that. And then over years, what happens is your whole life view, your whole world view is that the world is against you. Now, this is on the opposite side of saying like men have too many emotions and they're talking too much about it these days, right? It's actually, if I can take responsibility of how I feel, now I'm in control again. And I think this is where the challenge comes. If you're just talking about something over and over again, but you're not doing anything about it, then that's when there's a problem. That's when there's a challenge. Now take responsibility and do something about it. Change your life. Nobody's going to do it for you, man. And I think for me, it's when I found my purpose in life that I started to realize nobody's going to bring this purpose to fruition apart from me.
But this is the thing, though. Like, even with the women that I speak to, you can talk about it and you can recognize it, but that difficult step is taking that action.
Have the conversation.
And it's like, I don't try and like advertise myself as you should just speak to me and get a coach because a coach will push you. It's not necessarily the case, because I feel like you can push yourself. But if you are lacking that push, that guidance to do what it is that you already know you should be doing, get someone involved.
Bro, but this is 100% the truth. Like, every time that I've gone through challenges, so even this year, felt like I was just hitting a block in terms of what my true potential is. And I just felt stuck. And I was like, for months went by and I just kind of, okay, let me just try and figure it out. And I still couldn't get to the root cause. So what did I do? I went and hired a mentor that's already done it and achieved it. And now I'm getting his specific advice and he's helping me rip apart what I've currently done and put it back together. And it's like this almost this fear around actually reaching out to people that can help you. Why do we get such good results with what we do? It's because the people have realized that actually, you know what, I can't do this alone. I need to go and speak to an expert in this space that have gone through it, done it, achieved it, and are able to sustain it.
But don't you think the beautiful part of it in that is the fact that, albeit you've obtained experts in, what you saw might not have worked with you at the time. Like, you still risked it for your own benefit. You knew you were going to do the work. You were going to try and take down as much notes or whatever it was this mentor like advised you, and like put it into action. There is that blocker right now because people think, well, what if I don't get the results? And we're so results focused. It's a case of, love, I can't guarantee you're going to be confident at the back end of this. I'm going to do my utmost best to push you to be confident. I'm going to do my utmost best to help you lose the weight and find yourself a boyfriend or whatever it is that you're looking to like try and achieve. But respectfully, if you're not doing the work,
it's a partnership, right?
But
this is why I always say when somebody joins us, there's a partnership agreement. Because again, we both want the same thing. We've outlined a target. So this is where we're going to move towards. I'm going to do this for you and I'm going to support you, educate you, hold you accountable, do all the whatever we need to put in place for you. But on your side, all you need to do is try your best, give me your best effort, implement, feedback quickly, and if we can communicate, we can actually achieve success.
Yeah.
That member that I talked about earlier, that 18 kilos down, all that sort of stuff, but she communicated that she was struggling with her emotions, and because she communicated it, we found a solution for it.
100%.
Bottle it up, you will go and make the same mistakes.
Yeah, I hear you. That's mad. It's mad. It's the coaching space is very, 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 very interesting. I can't. It's something that you can't describe until someone gets on board to truly understand what it is that you're offering, right? Like you could say you'll get this in 6 months, 12 months, etc. But truthfully, you can get it within a couple of days if you apply yourself. You know, but again, it's that application and it's taking accountability and knowing what it is that you've got in your corner right now is your cheerleader, your support system, and someone who's not going to let you go back to your old ways. And then it's just trying to figure out whether or not you really require that right now or not. So the question that I asked, how are you creating that safe space for your male clients to open up?
Yeah. Look, again, I talk about me. My clients talk about themselves. They talk about their wins. They talk about their challenges. It's just so normal now.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the beauty of it. When you're having a deep and meaningful conversation and somebody's coming into the program, they feel the difference.
Yeah.
And they feel that there's genuine care for them. And when you realize that there's genuine care for you, you're open to being a little bit more vulnerable about some of the biggest challenges. Like, we have mental health specialists that work with our team, with our clients. So I say team, but I mean clients.
Yeah.
So if you come in and it's like, actually the biggest blocker is you struggle to effectively communicate how you feel, you feel something, but you don't know how to communicate it.
Yeah.
So what you normally do is you bottle up, you go quiet. Everybody around you knows something that's not quite right, but you've not said it. So they try and treat you like normal, but they start to detach from you as well. So now we've recognized, here's your pattern. Let's go and specifically put something in place to work on that.
Fine.
So again, like, this is why it's so interesting, talking about like a physique, for example. The physique is the byproduct of all of these conversations that we have, because now you're not detaching, which means you're connecting, which means you're happier, which means you're sleeping better and your energy's up and you feel more purpose in every day. And when you're in the gym, you're not just going through the motions, and now you're actually pushing yourself. What ends up happening? You look good and you feel good. So this is why creating that safe space to just talk about what's actually going on, it just becomes a more natural thing to do, because you also see other people in the program doing it.
You mentioned like teams, so you've got your mental health specialists that work alongside you. Is it just you that's doing the coaching at the moment though?
No, we've got 4 coaches that all work with us. We've got 3 psychologists that work with us. We've got an injury rehab specialist that works with us, functional medicine practitioner who's going to look through your bloods and do all the work on that side of it. So it's an expansive team, man.
How does that all work though? Like, say if someone wants to sign up with you, what is it? What's the program looking like? I always ask every PT online coach how it works, because I've had some people tell me some like very interesting stories. Like after a year, after 6 months, we say go. Yeah. And it's like, what if they're not reachable? So they know it. They've just got to now apply it, kind of thing. So what's it like? What's it like working with you? What's the plan like?
It starts with a conversation.
Fine.
Right. So we've got to go through some level of understanding of who you are, where you are in life, and actually what is it that you want to achieve beyond the surface level. And then once you've got clarity on that, then you can start going through a level of due diligence to understand truly where they are based on what they initially said, and then give them a roadmap. Here's the roadmap. Here are the people that are going to support you through this process. Sometimes a client might have multiple coaches to give them the support they need.
Oh, sick.
So they might be speaking to the psychologist to work through certain challenges. They've got their accountability coaches. They've got somebody working on their nutrition. But we simplify it to a point where somebody just knows, here's my 3 things that I need to do this week. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to feedback. I'm going to communicate. And then not just on a check-in, like a weekly check-in. Regular communication to get to a point where they feel good with it. They feel comfortable with it. Now we're ready to level up.
Nice. So it's not necessarily just, here's your workout plan, here's what you should or shouldn't eat. It's these are your goals for this week. Knock it out the park, and if you're struggling, let us know, and keep that line of communication there so we can take it to the next level. We can take you one step further.
Yeah. And having, honestly, bro, like an access to a specialist
Yeah.
that knows how to move you forwards
Yeah.
quickly and efficiently through your biggest challenges,
Yeah.
rather than sitting there, okay, I'm going to follow this nutrition plan, but I actually feel like shit today. But I'm going to follow this nutrition plan, but it's actually making me feel worse.
So like I use BetterHelp for my therapy, and like the first thing they say, we're going to assign you a therapist. If it doesn't work out, you let us know. We'll assign you someone new. Have you had any like challenges where, let's say, a particular psychologist or mental health person within your team, it's not working well with the current client, so you've had to shift that around? Or
I think it depends on the specialities. Because like the 3 psychologists that we've got within the team, they all have unique backgrounds.
Fine.
Like one definitely has a specific experience in trauma, another in emotional eating, another in substance abuse and abuse in general, like alcohol and food. So it depends on what the challenge is, and then assigning them the right support, rather than just being like, oh, who's available? Can somebody take this session?
Fine.
And there has to be continuity as well, right?
You need that. You definitely need that. Otherwise, it's just pointless. Like I remember when I first started coaching, one of the guys I played golf with, he's a GP, and he said they're actually trying to bring coaches into the NHS now. I'm going to send you this job spec if you're up for it. There's a GP located like not far from you. They're hiring. I was like, could be a shout.
Yeah.
And when I read the spec, it was a case of you speak to whoever turns up on the day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not coaching. That's just holding space, which is fine. But if they're not going to do anything consciously on what we speak about, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if they're going to come in again next week or a month later saying the same stuff and they've not done anything on the back end of it, I can't hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So I didn't obviously go through with it, but I like what you're doing there. But how long do people tend to then work with you?
Do you know what? I've had one guy, we shared his journey recently. He just didn't want to have diabetes anymore. He was in his 30s, recently married, told he's got diabetes, really out of shape, not happy.
Yeah.
And he came to us and he was like, I just don't want to feel like this anymore. Like 2 years on, he's gone and done a photo shoot. He's lost 40 kilos.
Bloody hell.
And he's like, literally, he's inspired so many people in his community.
Yeah.
He gets asked to go and do talks now at like local sports centres, where particularly within our community, to help the youth understand how to manage their health.
For sure.
And not go to what he did, which was basically just ignore his needs in terms of health and well-being. So it depends on the individual and honestly how far they want to take it.
So when someone signs up with you, it's a case of there's no end date unless, cause this is the thing, right? I've had to knuckle it down because initially when I first started, it was like I'd work with people for like a month or 3 months, and then I was like, I can't get you the results you want within that short space of time. It's a 6 month minimum.
Yeah.
I don't like calling it a program, but respectfully, based on your schedule, you might have events throughout the year, emergencies might kick off. Respectfully, we're gonna have to balance a lot of this stuff on your personal life. So to get you where you want to be is going to require a little bit more time. 6 months to like 12 months. But then I've also realized that I can't hold their hand throughout the rest of life, because if they're always going to be dependent on that conversation, I don't want to be seen like as a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm here to push you, get you moving. And when the next challenge comes up that you want to work on and you feel like you can't get over that line, then you can come back and have a conversation.
Yeah, man.
But with you, what does it normally look like? Because I feel like if someone listens to this right now, and I think we've had a sick conversation so far, and they're like, okay, cool, I definitely want to speak to him. I can't get myself involved, but my dad needs to speak to him right now. What does that look like for that individual? I know you said there's no real end date until they got their goal, but affordability come to mind as possibly an obstacle for people.
I'll be honest, man. Like for me, I want to see the individual first, and then I'll have that honest conversation with them in terms of like, this is where you are, and this is what you're telling me you want to achieve. So this is the distance between you and that goal. Yeah. So it might be 6 months, might be 12 months, might be 18 months. Yeah. But I'd rather just be very like transparent when we have that conversation.
100%.
Rather than be like, yeah, I can get you that in 6 months. We get to the end of 6 months and they're like, hold on, where's that extra 15, 20 kilos you told me I'd lose, right? But again, like, so I feel very grateful and very blessed now that we're in a position of being very I guess, choosy about who we bring into our world.
100%.
Because I think the community element of what we do is so powerful.
Yeah.
And the members being around each other. We went and climbed Snowdon recently, raised about 3,500 for charity just in that one day, and things like that. Like, we bring so many amazing people together. I'd rather make sure that actually we can help you get the result. There's 100% a good fit between the two of us. And also I can see you getting the most out of being around incredible people. And then that would be my first conversation. I'd rather put somebody off working with me than just drag somebody into the program just because they're willing to pay for it. Like, if you're just willing to pay for something, this is why I don't have a sign up online. Like, you can't go onto a website and put in your details and join my program. We have to talk first, and it's with me, not just some random salesperson sitting in any other country. You have a conversation with me, and we'll have a very meaningful conversation before we even think about progressing.
I hear that. I'm the same. Like, I can't work with anyone. There's no point in you saying, yeah, I'll give you the money, let's work. What's your challenge to someone where, what's the challenge for you personally where you know someone is very committed, you can see, and you've read it in that first conversation, they've got quite emotional, they've expressed their desire to like lose diabetes or whatever it is that's going on. But from a financial perspective, it's not looking good. What do you do on that front then? Is there a way they can still work with you, or is it unfortunately?
Bro, I'll be honest, I release so much free content.
Yeah.
I literally just I paid a diabetes specialist, a dietitian, to come and deliver free content to our community. I paid for people to be there.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can't get value out of the incredible amount of free content that I'm providing, and in that webinar, and I've just made it available for one more week, and anybody can download it, and it's like, it's step-by-step process of all of your biggest challenges that's going to help you reverse that condition. And I don't just do that with diabetes. I've done it with some mental health challenges. I've done it with men's mental health. I've done it with menopause this year. The level of like value that I give to people for free, I'm very, very like comfortable with.
100%. But bottom line though, if someone can't afford what it looks like to work with you, whether it's monthly, it's unfortunately it's a no for the time being until they are ready.
But right, I struggle with this because the level of investment that I've put into myself, I've not always had the money.
I know, and I'm the same.
I honestly, I struggle with it because the first investment I ever made into a mentor was literally the whole amount I didn't even have in the bank. I had to ask people for support. I had to put a line of credit out there that I'd never done. I used money that I'd put into my son's savings account, and I invested it into me, which enabled me to then put in double what I took out of the savings account. Right. So to say that the financial is the blocker. So here's a question for you. If I said to you, I need X amount of money, let's say just random number, I need £5,000 off you, I'm going to give you 50,000. Bro, you could find that 5,000.
100%.
So it for me, it's like, if you financially can't invest in yourself right now, and you've got no means of finding a solution to that, I'm here when you're ready.
I'm the same. I'm the same because I realized that like you can only do so much you can for free, but the true like growth comes from when you get uncomfortable with the fact that shit, I've invested into it now, but this is going to change my life, and the way you turn up is different. So I always offer someone like a free call. I can speak for an hour. I might double down and speak again next week if it's necessary. But respectfully, I can't work with you for free. And I'd love to, but I know your energy is going to be very different when you turn up.
Bro, if you've not got skin in the game, you're not going to do the work.
100%. And that's why I wanted to just double down and check, because it's like you strike me as a character that's wanting to do what you can for the community and try and change as many lives as you can. But respectfully, you can only change those who are willing to put that skin in the game.
Yeah. Look, I think fair exchange comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
I make sure that whatever somebody's investing into us, I'm going to give them way more than
100%,
financial investment.
Yeah.
And fair exchange to me is an interesting one, because it's not, for me, it's literally not about the money.
Yeah.
Like so if somebody used to join the program now, the amount that I invest into the experts that are then supporting them through the process,
Yeah.
it barely leaves anything on the table.
But no one sees that though.
Yeah.
No one sees that.
But do you know what I feel like for me?
Yeah.
My legacy is the change that we're bringing to people's lives.
Yeah.
And if I can change one person, they become an epicenter of change for the whole community. And I'm not just talking like random people learning from them. Their kids, their wives, their partners, their families. Like, again, talking about that guy that lost 40 kilos and transformed his health. When I asked him, what was your biggest win? He said, it's my dad is now eating similar foods to me. He's lost 5 kilos. He's coming off his medication for diabetes. And I'm like, that was the change that we were after.
Yeah. And it's till you start it will you then begin to realize what the knock-on effect it really has.
Yeah.
So when I say to someone, look, I'll help you get that job promotion or whatever it is that you want, I'm helping you lift up your confidence within all this. I'm helping you stand up for yourself, and I'm helping you create better relationships at home.
Yeah.
That issue you've got with your dad right now, that's about to change. Because you're going to stand up for yourself. You're going to start seeing things in different lights, and you're going to be a lot more understanding, respectful, but towards yourself too.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to hold on to this shit anymore because you know what it's doing to you.
Yeah.
Look, you can't move on. You can't find a partner right now because you're so worried about your dad and this animosity you have. So I hear it. I genuinely love the way you said that. It's just sometimes difficult to articulate it, but I suppose I'm not here to articulate it to everyone, just for those who are invested in growing. Juggy, this has been sick. It's I wish if you got here earlier, man, I would have just said let's just block out 2 hours and we could have spoken for a lot longer. This has been hella empowering.
Yeah, man.
Where can everyone get in touch and find you?
Just literally type in Indian body coach and you'll find me. Do you know what? My son was at school the other day and he typed in Juggy Sidhu and he was like, Daddy, you're famous. You're the first one on Google. But just type in Indian body coach anywhere.
Yeah.
And you'll find me.
Perfect. Well, it's been a pleasure, my man. Thank you very much for traveling down here, and you're definitely gonna change the game big time. I'm very much empowered by what you said today, so thank you. Thank you a lot for listening to another episode of the Unfiltered Podcast. If you've liked what you listened today, drop us a like. If you've got any comments in regards to what we spoke about, if there's something you disagreed with, or there's stuff that you did agree with, drop us a comment. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed yet, give us a subscribe. Whether you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, or if you're watching this on YouTube, every subscribe goes a long way. And look, why wouldn't you subscribe? If you like the unfiltered nature of the podcast, surely you want to be in tune to whenever the next episode is coming out, right? Anywho, I'll catch you on the next episode of the Unfiltered Podcast. It's been your boy Pri, and I'm signing out. Peace.